Yeah, I say hallelujah too. Even the rich ones and crazy ones like to keep the lights on. Let's go to the Victorian Premier today, Jacinta Allan. She addressed what's called the Uruk Justice Commission, the Truth-Telling Commission in Victoria. She had this to say.
On many occasions, I've been asked to rule things in or out in terms of what may be discussed at the treaty negotiation table, and I'm simply not going to do that because, again, that would be disrespecting the process.
Gary, even Victorians voted to reject separatism last year. So why is Labor pushing on with this treaty that a majority don't want, and it will cost billions and billions?
Well, the Coalition trusts individuals and loves the idea of the diverse range of individuals finding the common ground and working together. Labor loves division, and they really do. They just love dividing us into tribes. And look, you can't have a treaty between two separate groups of people inside a country. A treaty is a thing you do with another country. So they're just constantly talking about them, those people that are on the negotiating side of the treaty, as a separate nation. And the Prime Minister is bad at this too. He loves separate tribes, separate development. We cannot have constitutional apartheid in any form. And look, in the end, this is part of an international movement to disorient the West. It's happening in America. It's happening in Canada. Being part of the Viking cult, I think I'll probably, or the Viking group, I think I'll probably want to get bits of Scotland and see if I can find some of that. You know, I mean, it's just madness, Peter. And unless we start getting leadership at all levels of government about the business of how we bring people together, not how we divide them apart, this country is heading for a serious breakdown, a fracture. And the same thing is happening in Queensland. They've got this kind of pathway to treaty after 70% of Queenslanders voted emphatically no, and most of them were Indigenous Australians. They know it's the rent seekers who want this, and they're just going to bludge off the rest of us. And I make the point, it's the rent seekers who want to bludge off the rest of us, and they're trying to create a crisis that frankly doesn't exist. So this is evil. It is evil, and we've got to call it out for that. And Jacinta Allan, well, she should be consigned to the dustbin of history over this rubbish. Really should be.
Beautifully and passionately said. And of course, pushing around this division, Keith, is all the spinners there in the federal government ranks, and I have to say many in the public servants too are signed up to the Labor cause. Revealed today by the wonderful Sophie Ellsworth, the PM has 11 media advisors. Now, I have to say, Tony Abbott had about 4. Peter Dutton's got 2. I mean, Peter Dutton's got 2. Peter Dutton's in opposition. I've added it up. It would be close to $2 million just for the salaries and the everyday allowances for that 11 alone. What the hell's going on here? $2 million.
Well, the Prime Minister's got 11 media advisors and he's still getting it wrong, Peter. That's what's happening. And
not wrong there.
It would be closer to $2 million. And I mean, if you've got a cricket team of media advisors, I'm wondering who the 12th man is. And I'm backing Prime Minister Albanese. He's carrying the drinks because he's clearly not listening. But this is just outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Who needs 11 media advisors? I mean, my office, I used to get by with one senior and one junior. And Peter, you've been in the game. You know how it works. I mean, how many people do you need giving you advice around how to work with journalists and deliver a message that matters?
Yeah, it's not how many people give you advice, it's how much your bloody will take, and clearly he's not taking it. Hey, let's go to Volt Typhoon, Gary. The Dutton opposition says the government's got to provide more transparency around cyber threats. It was reported in the weekend that Chinese-sponsored hackers, Volt Typhoon, are operating in Australia. Home Affairs Minister James Paterson says that we've got to sort of stand up and call this for what it is, but not be scared to attribute it to foreign governments where there is sufficient evidence to do so. Now, what he's saying there basically is we're dancing around it being China. If we are confident we're right, that it is Beijing that are part of these hackers, or Russia, or whomever it is, we've got to do the right thing and call it out. But it seems like now the government, the federal government, the Albanese government, is almost too scared to take on China.
But they can't make it about a decision about anything, Peter. And James Paterson, as seemingly usual, is right. We should call it out. I mean, we can't call out TikTok. America, they're banning TikTok apparently, but Joe Biden's keeping it. I mean, again, it's the international left creating this division. Our kids are getting more information off social media and things like TikTok, which may or may not be true. They need to read more books. They need to actually understand how to make decisions and how to ask questions. And then you've got these big state-based hackers that are trying to damage our infrastructure and to create problems in the certainty that we want with our power supply, our water supply, our telecommunications, our banking, the signalling on trains, the signalling on roads, you name it. It's all vulnerable. And this mob can't make a decision. The Prime Minister cannot make a decision about anything. He can't decide whether, Palestine is ripe for the picking or the Jews should be supported. This bloke is showing zero leadership. And look, I think he needs another 11 spin doctors, but most of them to contain him in a rubber room because he is going mad before our eyes. He is as feeble. He's as feeble as Joe Biden without the grey hairs. That's my view of him.
I'll leave it there, but I think his lack of intellectual grunt and moral backbone is pretty evident now.